Welcome to another ClimateTech podcast, interviews with the people trying to save us from ourselves. In this episode, I spoke with Yonatan Golan, co-founder and CEO of Brevel. Brevel makes ultra-high-yield protein from microalgae thanks to a top-secret innovation that speeds up the process 100 times relative to nature. I reached Yonatan on the production floor, as you'll hear in the recording, at their facility in southern Israel. I'm Ryan Grant Little. Thanks for being here. Yonatan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
You're the CEO of Brevel, which is a company you founded in 2016 together with your two brothers. What does Brevel do?
So in Brevel, we produce alternative protein for the food industry. We do this using microalgae, microscopic algae, which grow extremely fast and have loads of protein and other nutritional ingredients. And we use a unique technology we developed, which significantly improves and breaks through the glass ceiling that this industry has seen until today. But our customers are food manufacturers who use our protein in their applications. And
what are your backgrounds? So I've had several sibling pairs on the podcast by now, founder pairs, but there's three of you, which is very impressive. What are your backgrounds? Are you all food people?
So it happens to be that I'm actually vegan. So this is a big driver for myself, but we're not food people. Originally, I'm actually a physicist. My younger brother is a mechanical engineer, and he's the one who came up with the idea, who developed the majority of the technology breakthroughs. And our older brother, who's the COO, is actually a medical doctor, a surgeon in practice. And once things started moving quickly, he joined full-time in the company. And also he has the aspect of understanding the health issues with the current food we have out there. And so we share a vision of making the world a better place, each from their own angle. If it's technology, nutrition at large, and health.
So a physicist, a mechanical engineer, and a surgeon. So your parents must be very proud. And there is actually more of a family connection to this with the name, right? So the company name Brevel comes from your grandfather, if I remember correctly. Tell us about that.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So our mother's father, our mother was born in the U.S. and her father actually fled Germany in the early 1930s, fled to the U.S. with his family. And there he was also a mechanical engineer, like my younger brother. And he started a company for building motors, slow rotating motors. And the company's name was Brevel. He had two big factories, one in New Jersey and one in Montreal. And we decided, once we started our new adventure, we decided to call it Brevel 2 generations later. So we carry the original entrepreneurial spirit and vision of our grandfathers.
I love that. One of the companies I'm invested in called Willecroft, which makes plant-based cheese out of the Netherlands. That name comes from the farm of Brad Vanstone, the founder of Willecroft. So his grandparents had a dairy farm called Willecroft, so 2 generations before. So interesting to see that at play again in our sector and bringing back some family legacies into this. So you mentioned that the protein's created from microalgae. I don't believe in much, but I believe in the outsized possibilities of both mushrooms and microalgae to save the world, or at least make it a better place. And so just a few stats here that I dug up. Microalgae relative to beef is about 90 times more efficient in land use, 40 times more efficient in emissions, and about 170 times more efficient in terms of water consumption. You've called your protein ingredient the most sustainable protein on Earth, and very spookily, also a ghost protein. So talk a little bit more about it and why this is such a wonder source or wonder protein.
Right. So microalgae have been viewed for many decades as one of the possible solutions for mitigating climate change, for solving our food crisis that we're facing, because basically microalgae are the first organism on this planet to use external energy to grow. They developed photosynthesis 2 billion years ago. I mean, microalgae are the most resource efficient organism on this planet and have this potential to solve many of our challenges. But until today, microalgae have 2 very big barriers. One of them is taste. Microalgae, unfortunately, doesn't taste well, and this is an understatement. And they're very expensive to produce. So they're not really relevant yet for the food industry. And these are two of the challenges we came to change. So the technology we developed, which I think we can maybe talk about in a moment, enables microalgae to be much more affordable. And we're able to produce protein, which is nothing like you would imagine coming from microalgae. It's very flavor neutral. This is why we call it actually, one of our customers called it a ghost protein. And it's completely white. It's not green. It's not yucky. It doesn't have any flavor or color or texture that you would imagine from something coming from the sea, from water, and can be blended into any plant-based application out there. It's plant-based meat, plant-based cheese, beverages, or whatever you want, and really provide a solution that the food industry is looking for.
And what is the nutritional profile of this? I mean, it must be pretty good, right?
Right. Yeah. So
talk a bit about that.
Absolutely. So it's a full amino acid profile. I mean, it's a full protein. It's non-GMO. I mean, we use natural microalgae strains. It's non-allergenic. It has all of the good stuff you want from your food while being very environmental friendly and affordable for the food industry.
Okay. And so you've been able to achieve yields 100 times greater than, I guess, presumably how this grows in the wild or underwater. And it's something about the combination of fermentation and light. So this is the technology. This is the process. Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like? How come 100 times faster?
Sure. So typical microalgae are grown outdoors using sunlight and CO2. They grow efficiently, but not efficiently enough to make it a commodity for the food industry. An alternative way to grow microalgae, and this is being done today worldwide, is to use fermentation. Basically add sugar. The process, similar how you would grow yeast or bacteria or fungi. And once you feed microalgae sugar, they grow 100 times faster than in outdoor conditions. However, today, fermentation like this is done in the dark, in large stainless steel tanks, and the microalgae are not exposed to light. And thus, they lose a lot of the nutritional value, a lot of the qualities of what they could produce. Most of what you want from microalgae needs light to be produced. And so we managed to develop a technology which combines fermentation and photosynthesis in a single process. And this may sound simplistic, but it's as simplistic as thinking that you can just plug in a battery into a car and have a Tesla. I mean, it takes much more than just plugging light into a fermenter. It's a very challenging technological problem. And this is exactly what we managed to develop and solve and patent in Brevel.
And what are the challenges? What's challenging maybe about the process or about microalgae as a product? And can you turn a ghost protein like this into something that tastes as good as a T-bone steak?
So regarding taste, we want to provide a protein which tastes like nothing, that you wouldn't know it's there. And then, I mean, our customers, our food manufacturers, they do their magic. I mean, we don't know how to produce a flavor of a T-bone steak. I mean, there are amazing companies and startups and solutions out there for how to produce the best tasting chicken nuggets or plant-based fish or beverage or cheese, plant-based cheese. We provide the nutritional value and we also provide functional qualities. So to provide the gelling properties of plant-based cheese and the texture and foaming and other properties that you want in food applications. So these are things that our customers know to do best. We provide them with the solution to bring that to their customers.
Okay. And so do you have to customize it for each type of customer, or is it really just you've found a way to make this, as you say, ghost protein, this colorless, flavorless thing, and it gets shipped the same regardless of the end application, whether it's plant-based fish or cheese or milk?
Right. So today we have several different variations of the product, and we're working on others as well. But eventually, the end goal is to provide the nutritional value and then let the food manufacturers build on top of that whatever they need for their customers.
I saw in Forbes something about milk. So that's maybe one of your first applications that's out on the market. Is that right?
Yeah. So just to be clear, we do not develop and market the milk or the dairy alternatives that we're working on. We provide the solution for them to do that. We're starting with the dairy alternative space because this is the most difficult segment in the food industry to go into. Today, plant-based protein is mostly soy protein and pea protein. And for plant-based meat applications, there are excellent solutions. For Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods and all of these other excellent companies out there, these are good solutions. But for plant-based dairy, they don't have a neutral flavor to be able to provide the nutritional value without compromising flavor. And this is exactly where we can shine, really outperform what the other plant-based alternatives out there can provide, by providing a very neutral flavored protein with an affordable cost for the food industry.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I do hear a lot that, especially cheese is kind of the hardest one to nail. And I hadn't kind of put two and two together that maybe it's because of the underlying protein source of something like soy or beans or pea that's causing that kind of flavor to sneak in.
Right. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm vegan. I have 3 small children who are vegan as well. And they eat their cereals in the morning with plant-based milk, with rice milk. And basically, rice milk is just water and sugar, nutritionally wise. It doesn't have any significant value. That also goes for plant-based cheese. I mean, they could be tasty. It could be excellent on your pizza, but it's basically oil and starch, which forms the basis of it. You would find it very difficult to find plant-based cheese which has any significant nutritional value. And that's exactly as I said, because the protein sources aren't good enough yet to provide that in these applications. This is exactly where we want to go in first.
I work with a lot of companies who plan to open up shop in or expand across Europe. My one big piece of advice, don't fall into the trap of setting up a new entity right away. Instead, talk to my friends at Paracar, who can help you get up and running without all the costs, not to mention the legal and HR hassle. When I was hiring in different EU countries, I wanted my team to focus on their work, not on the country's bureaucracy. After interviewing a half dozen international expansion firms, I chose Paracar because they were by far the most knowledgeable and they're great people. Whether you're a large multinational looking to expand abroad, a small business looking for the right talent, or a contractor, they'll sort it out. Book a free, no-obligation consultation right now at paracar.eu/climate. That's PARAKAR.eu/climate. You've raised a round recently, a very successful round, $18.5 million. Congratulations on that. And so a few things. One, I know that at the time of airing of this episode, you'll just have moved into a new facility. So that's also a big step. And I'm curious, 18.5 million, how are you going to spend that money? Asking now both as a podcaster and as someone who's invested in an earlier round.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we were very fortunate to have closed a significant round last summer. And as you mentioned, we just moved into our brand new factory, which we will start producing in by the end of this year, going commercial with our products. So a small part, I would say, of the investment has gone into building and equipping the new factory. But then the majority is still invested in continuing to develop and improve the technology we're working with, the fermentation technology, then also working and developing the processes, both upstream, which is how to grow the microalgae very efficiently in the technology, and then a significant part also downstream, and how to extract the protein from the microalgae. But we're not only developing protein. A big part of what we do is also extract and develop the oil fraction from the microalgae, the fiber, the pigments, and other ingredients that the microalgae produces and will be commercialized independently. And this is actually a big part of our ability to get to cost parity with solutions out there, mostly pea and soy, which is the benchmark that we're compared against. To be able to get to cost parity, this comes not only from the very efficient, very cost-effective process we have, but actually from being able to commercialize close to 100% of the biomass of the microalgae we produce. And the ability to commercialize almost 100% comes from the fact of having light in the process. So we not only produce valuable protein, but we produce very functional oils, very soluble and functional fibers and pigments and other ingredients And through that, being able to price the protein at even at soy level cost and still be very profitable because we can maximize the profitability from the same biomass.
And are there other people working in this field with microalgae specifically? Do you have kind of like a race happening with some competitors to get to price parity with the kind of traditional ones like soy and pea?
So in microalgae, there are amazing companies out there doing excellent work. Today, none of them have the ability to combine fermentation and light. But there are companies doing fermentation, they're limited in producing ingredients that do not need light to be produced. And this limits their ability to get to very affordable pricing in the long term. Though some of them already have products in the market and are doing an excellent job. The biggest competition we see is actually the existing solutions, soy and pea protein. This is the biggest market. It's very similar to eventually the benchmark that Tesla, for example, has to face is the existing automotive industry, not necessarily their electric companies. So eventually the biggest competition is the existing industry. But another very interesting field is mycelium companies, growing fungi and fermentation. Also there are amazing companies paving the way into introducing new sources of protein in the industry. But all of these new companies, we actually don't see as competition. We see them as partners in this journey of providing new solutions for the food industry, making it much more sustainable and healthy for consumers. And each company that succeeds helps all of the others in entering this market. And the need in the market is so huge that anyone that would have a viable solution would have a place in the market. So really, I see them as colleagues doing this journey together. And of course, we alone, we won't be able to provide a whole solution for the whole industry. It's too big of a problem for a single company to tackle. And I see all of these other companies as really as partners in this bigger vision.
Yeah, that's well put. We're basically talking about trying to replace an entire animal protein industry with viable options like this, or to substantially complement it, let's say. So yeah, that's a very valid point. And presumably also there are a number of hybrid solutions that you'll be working on, looking at kind of other protein companies where you can be a portion of it. So I could imagine that maybe your microalgae protein complements a soy protein or a pea protein, and you look at hybrid solutions. I'm seeing much more of that in the market right now in general.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is also true. There are also very interesting companies in the precision fermentation space producing milk proteins, casein and other proteins. And we see them also as partners. We see them as companies that we could do hybrid products together. They will provide the specific functionality of stretchiness of cheese, and we can complement their products with the nutritional value they need for the consumers. So we see all of us really working together on the same mission.
Yeah, a great company called Firmify here in Vienna in Austria that's working on that problem as well. You're based in Israel, and Israel has a massive food tech scene relative to the country's size. Why do you think that is?
So I don't know if I have a full answer, but I think the food is a big issue in Israel, also because of kosher needs. But also, I believe Tel Aviv is the best place for vegans in the world. It was crowned, I think, a few years ago. And also, personally, as a vegan, it's really easy to find vegan food anywhere I go in Israel. And I think it also has to do with the kosher thing. All of the street food, falafel and hummus and other street food is vegan. So there's a lot of people are very conscious of the food we eat here. I'm not religious, of course. I don't practice religion, so kosher is not an issue for me, but it is something that people are very aware of. And so veganism, I think, is something that is very popular here. And it's not that all of my colleague CEOs in the space are vegan, but there's a lot of need. Many of the employees in these companies in the food tech space come from a desire to develop something better for them and for their siblings and for their friends. There's a lot of understanding that this is something that should be tackled and solved. And I think this is a big part of specifically the food tech space, and which also is part of the larger tech industry here in Israel at large, I believe.
Indeed, yeah, there's a big tech industry as well. And you're farther south, right? You're not in Tel Aviv. You're kind of with a number of food tech companies in the south of the country. Is that right? Where are you exactly?
So our new factory is in Kiryat Gat. It's actually the northern part of the Israeli desert. So we're pretty much south. We're about an hour south of Tel Aviv, further south than the rest of the food tech scene here in Israel.
Okay, and so maybe that's part of it as well, as like trying to come up with novel ways to create food in a desert or, in a small geographical area, and also the food security issue, right?
Exactly.
That making sure that you have access to food domestically as well. How have things changed since October 7th in the operating environment, both in terms of kind of how how you run your operations, but also in terms of investors and that type of thing? I mean, I imagine there's been some substantial changes as a company.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, so I think the situation is difficult for everyone on all sides here in the conflict. And it affects us as well, both on personal levels. Each one of us in the company is affected by it. And when the war just started on October 7th, we actually couldn't, because we're based in the south of Israel, we couldn't work for about a month because we didn't have enough safety measures in place in the facility. But after about a month, we got back running. The situation is still complicated, but as a company, we're doing actually very well. We were very fortunate to close a significant round a few months before October 7th. And so we entered the situation at a very stable place. And we have a long enough runway so that we can operate freely and not be concerned about where to raise the next round from. Of course, Israel today is not a very attractive place to invest in, which I completely understand. I would have treated it the same if I were in Europe or in the US as an investor. But the situation will change. The war will be over, I hope, sooner than later. And the appetite for Israeli tech and innovation and entrepreneurs will go back to normal once things are better here. And we're working on building the company and getting ready for once the situation returns to normal. So I would say I'm not, on a personal level, of course, we're affected, but we continue working as usual, mostly. And I'm not concerned in the long term at all. It will be over and business will go back to as usual. And I would say that we have tremendous support from all of our investors, all of our potential customers and partners we're working with. We're continuing just as usual. Everyone we work with understands that the need to provide a sustainable solution for our food is not affected by any war, any conflict, or any other issue. And this is a tangible product that must be developed. And so we have tremendous support and we're moving on. And we're very focused on our larger mission.
And so now with the new facility up and running and this runway, what can people do to help you with your mission? Are you hiring right now? Are you looking for any specific types of resources, new customers? How can people get in touch if they want to help?
Yeah, thanks for that. So we're looking for potential partners and customers in the food space, companies developing plant-based solutions and who are wanting to improve the product in terms of flavor, nutritional value, health properties, and so on, and are looking for new sources of protein and other ingredients. We're looking for experts in the fields of oil and fibers and nutritional supplements and others that are looking to consult us and help us with developing our new products as well. We're looking also for investors in the long term to build relationships with who share the same vision of a better world through improving our nutrition. And yes, we're always hiring. At the moment, we're still hiring locally, but we're just hiring now a business development manager. So if there's anyone in Israel now listening to this and in the space of business development, we would like to hear from you. And also the long-term plan is to scale up manufacturing with partners in different locations in the world, to build large-scale facilities with local partners in each geography. So we already have a few in different locations in the Middle East, in Europe, in Asia. And we're looking for more that are interested in partnering and building large-scale facilities and operating them to produce the protein and other ingredients that are needed in their region.
Okay, that's interesting. That's news to me as well. So, okay, now I know how you're spending the money. That's all sounds like a good use of cash. And the best place to reach you is LinkedIn, which I'll link into the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay, so LinkedIn it is. Yonatan, thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Thank you, Ryan. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to another ClimateTech podcast. It would mean a lot if you would subscribe, rate, and share this podcast. Get in touch anytime with tips and guest recommendations at hello@climatetechpod.com. Find me, Ryan Grant Little, on LinkedIn. I'll be back with another episode next week. Bye for now. This episode is supported by Grizzle, B2B content to create and capture demand. I first met Grizzle's founder, Tom Watley, 5 years ago at a conference in Dublin. I was so impressed that I signed a deal with him to do all my software company's content that same evening at the pub. Remember that, Tom?
Kinda.
And they're still doing it 2 years after we sold the company because the new owners love Grizzle as much as I do. If you sell B2B, book 30 minutes in Tom's calendar at grizzle.io/climate. That's GRIZZLE.io/climate.